Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
A quick jaunt across the U.S.-Canadian border finds us here in the heart of Georgia at one of the more recently popular circuits stateside. Up until the turn of the century, Road Atlanta was mainly considered a middling sports car facility loved by drivers but not overly affected into the outside world. But with the birth of Petit Le Mans, Road Atlanta surged to prominence and has rightfully taken its place as one of the most loved motor racing circuits in all of the U.S. Hello everyone and welcome to round 3 of the Radical Racing Challenge, brought to you here live on Apex Racing TV. My name is DJ Clark, joined in the commentary booth by Aaron Smith with our director and producer Simuli Kumo behind the scenes. And Aaron, Radicals on this Road Atlanta circuit, it is pretty much a perfect combination for these cars, and I can't wait to see what action they have in store for us today.
100%. I mean, any downforce related car coming around this track, whether it be GT3s or the more powerful Le Mans cars, like we saw a few months ago, actually, the LMDH were doing their practice laps around here. And I must say, some of them were looking absolutely mighty quick, but these guys are going to be going a little bit slower in these Radical SR10s, and even still, they're setting pretty low lap times. It's not a very long lap round here, no matter what series you do, whether it's Formula 3, whether it's Radicals or anything. It's relatively short, but nevertheless, it is a very fun and challenging lap nonetheless. And as you said, it's loved all across the world. It's been on many different games. Of course, it's now been added to GT7, which I've heard some good things about, and many people are loving it on that game. But we're here on iRacing at the moment, and yeah, as you said, track and car combination, absolutely gorgeous.
Absolutely gorgeous. We are about halfway through our qualifying session here. We take a look at Rafael Blanco, the Uruguayan driver, currently in 8th place. Expect him to move up the charts a little bit more with that number 1, certainly meaning that he will have some good time to be able to bring out here. Perez, Van Oort, Webster, Salas, and Mateo, your top 5 right now. Looks like Josh Brain unable to put in a good time as we keep our eyes on Blanco right now as he brings the car down through the last couple of corners. Absolutely flat out here in these Radicals. He's going to cross over the line there. I'm not seeing an improvement for Blanco. A little bit of a surprise to see him starting back in 8th, but he'll hope to move his way up through the order when the green flag flies.
Yeah, really thought Blanco would have done a lot better there, but maybe he has one more lap in store, as he is going back round again, so we'll have to wait and see if he does make any improvements. But yeah, Blanco surprising he's only down in 8th, but I mean, look how short the gaps are from Blanco up to P1. It's only half a second. Then again, as I did mention, it is really short round here, so the gaps are a little bit skewed, but nonetheless, half a second for about half the grid is pretty good. And the whole grid is only separated by about a second, 1.2 seconds, as now it's 2 seconds, as Coyle sets a pretty slow lap time of a 16.8 compared to Perez's 14.9, as we are now watching the only man left not to set a time, and he goes into last place, as there's only 17 drivers left in this grid. Not our biggest grid that we've ever had in this league. I think we can get about 24 cars on one grid. But yeah, this is looking to be a pretty close race for the top 10, I'd say.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I mean, just look at that gap between Van Orden and Perez, only about 79 thousandths of a second there in between them. We watch Guerlain Massing coming across the line right now. Not going to be an improvement there from the number 4 machine as they work their way around. Only about a minute left in qualifying. 2 laps that these drivers are able to put on the board. Everything else that is going on right now, this is a little bit more of a warm-up phase to feel out the rhythm of the track, and particularly coming down through this area here, Aaron, going down through the S's, up and over turn 5. That's really an area where you need to feel that rhythm as much as possible.
Definitely. The first sector is probably the make or break, and that's Titus losing it, coming around the, I believe that was the second to last chicane coming around there. Just a little bit too much speed into that corner. And yeah, this track is very, very prone to mistakes, as it's one of the reasons why at first I never really fell in love with this track, as it's so incredibly difficult to put it all together around here. Even though it is a very short lap, it's one of the more harder tracks anywhere in the world to put it all together. But yeah, some of these drivers, as you can see, making the best of it, and Perez being the best of those drivers.
Yeah, certainly is. He's going to be up at the top of the charts right here, and we'll run you through that qualifying order. Lucas Perez leading the way, the Iberian driver in P1, Lawrence Van Oort in P2. Then it's going to be Dan Webster and Nacho Salas, P3 and 4, with Mario Medeo and Josh Brain making up row 3. Guerlain Massing will be in P7, followed by Rafael Blanco. That's going to be a car to keep an eye on to maybe move their way up through the field a little bit. Then it'll be Martina Ward and Ryan Steinwert who will round out your top 10. Moving on down through the order there, then it's Lasse Sorensen and Myron Ione, followed by Robert Woodward and Dominic Kalinsky. Tommy Witten's a lineup 15th, followed by Loris Coyle and Antonin Titus. They're in 17th position as we get ready here for the traditional standing start in these radicals, keeping an eye on Perez up at the front of the field. Looks like we are just waiting for Witten's a little bit farther back down in the order in 15th. Going to be a little bit of a tricky getaway for some of the drivers starting back down in the field. They'll actually be behind that final corner, so probably having to apply a little bit of steering lock to the car as they get themselves going. But the rest of the field here getting in as their Wittens gets onto the grid, and that should be the whole field geared up and ready to go, as indeed the lights start to come on and the engines start to harmonize as there goes the green, and we are racing here in Road Atlanta. Not the best getaway from Perez, and a big pile up at the back of the field there. Wittens, Massing, Ward, everybody getting turned around.
Yeah, as you were mentioning, that kink might have just caught them out as they were releasing the clutch, and yeah, just absolutely looped the car, and not the best start for those drivers. But nevertheless, we've got some action further up the field. The battle for, I believe this is for the podium, as Nacho Salas goes around the outside of the blind corner in turn 3. That was a very, very good overtake from him on the opening lap, very daring, and he moves himself up into 3rd place. But Lawrence Van Oort is not done yet, as we got some cars. Mate, that's Blanco in the wall.
Oh my goodness, getting it wrong there, coming over the crest of turn 5. That was a danger area that I was going to be talking about here in just a little bit time, but Rafael Blanco proving my point there for me as the number 1 gets some pretty hefty damage. Let's go back and check a look at the replay here, brought to you by SDK Gaming. Let's see, I think here, if I have to judge this, just a little bit too much speed and caught that curb wrong. That'll get you unless you're watching out for it here, Aaron.
Yeah, that curb, especially on these cold and heavy fuel cars, it's just gonna a tiny bit too wide, and yeah, you're gone. And there's another car round. There's two cars round at the second to last corner. Iani and Coral battling it out. I think that was for 10th place initially, and Blanco having to go off the track to avoid them. Actually, he might have just locked up by himself. I'm not quite sure. But Blanco then having damage, not a good start for the number one. And as I've said a few times, commentating for this guy, he does seem to make quite a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, certainly does. He's very, very speedy, but he is prone to those mistakes every once in a while, and we're seeing one of those play themselves out here. We check back in on that battle for P3 that we talked about, Nacho Salas and Lawrence Van Oort. Van Oort trying to send a move there up into the inside of turn 6. That's not normally an area where you see overtaking, more of a brush-breaking corner, but Van Oort making it look easy there and move that Benelux driver up into the podium positions.
Yeah, very opportunistic move. Just saw that he had a lot more speed than Salas in front and just thought, why not, I'll send it before we get to this long straight. And he's managed to pull himself away enough that Salas hopefully isn't going to send it. Yeah, just can't quite get close enough and is just going to have to sit back in 4th place and maybe work with Van Oort to try and pull a gap away from Sorensen behind, who's looking very feisty on these opening few laps as he's already up 6 places.
Yeah, looking particularly threatening here is the Norwegian driver Lasse Sorensen being able to move his way up through the field. He is currently up 6 positions. Your biggest mover thus far, excuse me, actually it's Antonin Titus that is your biggest mover, up 7 positions. But Sorensen doing a fantastic job, the IGL Coatings eRacing driver. And now we see a little bit of the trickiness. You talked earlier, Aaron, about the downforce. Oh! That's Dan Webster hard into the wall out of 5.
I don't even think he got onto the curb to do anything. He might have just taken a bit more speed. We're going to get a replay of what happened to him. And as we can see, he's just coming out of turn 3 and 4. Now coming up to turn 6. Just, oh, he took way too much of that curb on the outside and, yeah, slammed straight into the wall. Unfortunate. And that has brought his race to a sudden end.
Yeah, he's going to be back down into the pits. As there is Martino Ward, one of the drivers that unfortunately was caught up in that opening lap incident. Looks like the number 17 has been able to get repairs on the car and head back out onto the track. So try to just gain a couple of points. But here is Antonin Titus. Again, we're seeing a lot of drivers having problems there into 10 and 10A.
Yeah, as we know with these SR10s, the brakes are not fantastic, you can say. And if you do lock a brake, then, well, it's curtains for the next, I want to say, 2 laps. The brakes and the tires, they just completely lose all grip. And yeah, Titus, although he made that mistake, he's up still 7 places in 10th. So, I mean, fair play to the lad. He's managed to keep it on track only just, but he'll be one to keep an eye on, as there's already blue flags for the man who is all the way down in 13th and 12th. Blanco just letting everyone through. Really weird seeing him a lap down so early in this race.
Yeah, very, very strange indeed. That number 1 machine, we are so used to seeing it be fighting up for the front, but the man who's holding on to the front here at this point, Lucas Perez, who is just driving away at the front of this field. Unfortunately, Lawrence Van Oort looked like he had been held up a little bit as Van Oort tries to close that down here at this point, working on the 4th lap, about to start the 5th lap here of 18 here at Road Atlanta. As I love that camera angle, just seeing them fly across like that. Very, very good stuff, but Perez looks like he's losing a little bit of that gap now that Van Oort has been able to go and clear traffic. And look at that. That is Nacho Salas setting the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, I do notice in these SR10s, it does take a few laps for people to get up to speed usually, as Ieni just retires from the race, going back to the pits. But yeah, some of these guys are pushing to try and catch back up to Perez. But I'm wondering, is Perez maybe just going a little bit cautious, as it is easy to make a mistake around here, and maybe he's thinking, I've got a 2-second gap, I don't need to push as hard as I usually would, and maybe he's just playing with that gap, maybe just slowing up a little bit. But he's still got a comfortable lead, about 1.9 seconds, but it is coming down very quickly, losing time to both Van Oort and Salas in 3rd place, and Sorensen just about holding on to 4th behind, and Amadeo in 5th place. holding off Brain as well. And Titus now moving himself up into 9th place as well. He's having a fairly good race so far, starting pretty much last, and now he's inside the top 10.
Yeah, he's just moving his way up in the order there as the cars whiz on by. Perez setting the fastest lap of the race. That taken away there by Lawrence Van Oort. Wow, a 15.5. Van Oort is flying around Road Atlanta.
Yeah, on that last lap, I think the gap started about 2.3 seconds and yeah, ended at about 1.8. Van Oort really is pushing right now, and it's good to see. And at this rate, he probably will catch Perez within the next 4 or 5 laps and tuck into that slipstream, and it is game on here at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, and that's the crucial thing. About that 1 second or so marker, that is going to be where that draft starts to come into play here. And so that's what Van Oort is really going to be clawing at to try to do. And to your point about that number 3 machine really pushing, you could see him coming up over the crest of turn 5 and over into turn 7, taking the maximum amount of runoff there, just trying to get as much speed as possible out of that number 3 machine. He is on the limit here, although the gap isn't coming down nearly as quick as it was on the last lap.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll see when Perez comes across the line. Maybe he's just started to pick up the pace a little bit now as he sets a 14.8. So not the fastest lap, but Van Oort was still a little bit quicker on that last lap, although Salas was 0.2 quicker than both of them on that lap. So I think this top 3 will be very interesting to watch over the next about 12 laps we have to go now. And yeah, although the gaps are pretty big at the moment, by maybe lap 14, 15, they could all be within a second and a half of each other.
Yeah, they very well could. This is very much the definition here of sort of a percolating battle. We're just waiting for this to fire off here at this point. And I think it's all going to be about those little itty-bitty mistakes that you can make here and there, and maybe a little bit of lap traffic up the road. Oh, that's Van Oort off in the background.
Yeah, I saw the gap come down to Perez a little bit. I think he might have just outbroken himself going into the corner before the back straight. We'll take a look at a replay. So coming into this corner, everything looks fine, but then I think he just broke just a little bit too late. And yeah, got on the curb, got on the grass. Should be fine. Don't really think he would have gotten any damage. I think the only damage was his talent, just going off the track there. But yeah, he's going to try and hunt down Salas again. And I don't know if these two fighting will be a good idea, but we'll have to wait and see what they do.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Van Oort already taking a little bit of a counter line there, running a little bit wider on the entrance of turn 1. We now ride on board the nose here of that number 3 machine in a great angle to be able to see all of this. You can really see the elevation change, the compression that goes down here through the S's, and then how quickly you have to get onto the binders. A little bit squirrely there for Nacho Salas. That didn't look like the best run out of turn 5, but he's able to keep that machine up and underneath him. Oh, contact there. That was Van Oort very brave on the binders.
Yeah, so far throughout watching this first half of the lap, Van Oort really does seem to be a lot better on the brakes than Salas in front. And I think Salas also is feeling the pressure, as this lap has not been good for him at all. And yeah, he's going to get overtaken, pulls out of the slipstream, Van Oort does, and is going to outbrake him surely into this corner. Yeah, already ahead of him before we even reach the corner. Very good overtake from Van Oort, and moves himself up into second, but that mistake probably has cost him the race win now.
Yeah, it certainly has. I mean, look at that gap. It's about 3 seconds as that looks like the number 17 there getting out of the way. That is Martina Ward just letting those faster cars on by. We'll have to keep an eye on the gaps, although looking at it there, Perez was about 0.3 of a second faster. And I think the other driver that could be a little bit interested in all of this is Lasse Sorensen. There you can see Sorensen closing up behind in that number 9 machine as he loses a little bit of time there down through the S's, but he certainly wants to see this battle continue on and try to gain a few more positions.
Yeah, Sorensen on that last lap was quicker than both of these guys in front of him, although they were battling, so fair enough. But Sorensen, yeah, I think as long as he just keeps a level head and just tucks into the slipstream and just plays it cool, he can probably maybe even overtake... I'm not sure, actually. I was going to say maybe he can overtake Van Oort, but I think Van Oort's pace is looking really good. But if he makes another mistake, who knows where all these guys will end up.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. I think Van Oort's pace is going to be able to keep him at bay, specifically how late he's able to go onto the binders in a lot of these corners. But at the same time, if you are Salas, if you are Sorensen here at this point, you know that a mistake has been made. And so I'd be trying to maybe poke my nose this way or that, just try to find a little bit of a way to get into Lawrence Van Oort's head and see if I can elicit a mistake out of him. And it looks like that's a little bit of what Nacho Salas is trying to do, running a little bit earlier, a little bit tighter line coming up through turn 1, just trying to poke the nose of that number 6 machine this way and that and see if you can force those errors out of the number 3.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's what he did to him in the first place. Nacho was on a really good lap, and I think Van Oort just felt the pressure a little bit. He felt too much pressure trying to defend from Salas and trying to catch up to Perez in front, and was just trying to eke too much time out of his lap. And yeah, just ran wide at this very corner, but everything looks fine this lap, although Salas is in a nice slipstream. Not sure if it's going to be enough to go for a move, but as the gap comes down, we will find out by the end of this straight. It is coming down very, very quick. I do think it's just a little bit too far back, but it's coming down, but not quite enough to go for a move as I suspected. And Sorensen still just sitting behind, not really putting on much pressure, just letting these guys know that he's there just in case they want to crash, and let him overtake them both.
And I kind of like that strategy out of Sorensen. Don't get yourself involved in this battle. Don't put yourself into a position where you can get into trouble, especially if you have these two battling right ahead of you. Let that battle play out. Let it see what happens, and then you can get a little bit involved maybe in the latter stages of this race. We're going to jump back here to check you into P5 as we've got another battle here with Mario Mateo and Josh Brain. Brain trailing behind there in the number 12 machine as they come up in over turn 5. Looks like Brain just doesn't have the drive off the corner that he would quite like to, but he's still going to be able to get a nice boost from that slipstream here coming down the back straight.
Yeah, I think I'm going to predict the gap you need coming out of this corner to have enough to overtake is probably going to be 3/10 or under. I think that's probably where an overtake is possible, but apart from that, you just got to gain time through here. Not too much though, because if you do get too close to the car in front, it could maybe put you off or give you too much dirty air. It's really a mind game, especially in these SR10s. As these cars don't really drive like anything else on iRacing. It's a pretty different beast than anything else. It has the downforce similar to other cars, but just the way it feels, the way it handles, what happens if you make a mistake, it's very strange. But nevertheless, these guys know how to make the best of it, and that's why they're top of the timing sheets so far this week.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you there. These are an utterly unique car in the way that they drive. You mentioned a little bit earlier, it takes the tires a couple of laps more than you would traditionally think to get up to temperature. The same is true with the brakes. It's very easy to lock up these brakes if you're not careful. Looks like Josh Brain has had a little bit of a problem there as he's going to drop back now behind Robert Woodward. I wonder if that was maybe even just a slowdown penalty. Maybe if he cut the course a little bit. Let's go back and check out the replay here from the number 12. A little bit farther back there, as now we're going to take a look at exactly what happened coming down through the S's. Brings the car around. Oh, big spin, getting a catch up outside curbing, and that is some amazing car control.
Yeah, that would have earned him a few multipliers. And yeah, Salas has got past Van Oort. That's surprising. I think he might have made that slipstream move I was talking about into this final few corners, but we will have a look. Yeah, he is very close. Does he decide to send it? He does, and yeah, pulls alongside and gets ahead. Fair play, nice and clean overtake from Nacho Salas.
Very good one. You saw there Van Oort maybe thinking about getting his elbows out a little bit, but not eventually going for it. Van Oort now finds himself about 0.4 of a second behind Salas. Salas trying to stretch away here as we've got about 6 laps to go in this 18-lap race from Road Atlanta. This is our closest battle on track with Nacho Salas, Lawrence Van Oort, and Lasse Sorensen. I've got to wonder here if Sorensen's going to be the one to maybe start pushing ahead as we close down into these last 5 laps when they run to the line.
Yeah, possibly. Although he doesn't have the best lap time out of all of these. That would be Van Aert, who did a 14.5. I believe he does have the fastest lap of the race still. That was a superb lap from him, and no one has been able to beat it. But Van Aert still putting on the pressure from Salas in front. And Sorensen, I think, just for the minute, he's still going to play that game of he just doesn't want to get involved. He's just going to hang back for now as... Yeah, once you start getting involved in a battle, it does become a bit chaotic and can end up in tears if you're not careful. And he'll just let these guys battle for now. And I think maybe once we get to maybe lap 16, 17, he'll think, okay, my time is running out. I need to get past these guys, and we'll probably get a little bit more aggressive. But so far, these guys are putting on a show for us, and it's tooth and nail at the moment as Salas gets very squirmy coming out of there. And I wonder if Van Aert is going to have enough momentum to go for a move into this next corner. He's just going to sit behind, but it's going to give him, well, I mean, the best opportunity anyone's had so far this race to overtake on this next straight.
Yeah, he's going to be right up behind here. 0.2 of a second, the gap as they work onto the back straightaway now, coming down under 1/10 of a second. I think this is going to be a move here for Van Aert. Indeed, he's going to poke his nose to what will be the inside going down into turn 10A. It's going to be a battle of the late breakers. Let's see who's able to make it work. Van Aert down to the inside, shuts the door there on Salas, and that is Laurens Van Aert back up into second place. A little bit squirrely there on the exit of 10B. That's going to open up the door for Salas. He thought about it, but decided not to go for it into 12.
Yeah, I really thought he was going to go for that move. He was, I would say, just about alongside, but not enough to be given enough space. I think, yeah, Salas made the right decision to pull out of that. Otherwise, I think that definitely would have ended in tears. But it's so close between these two. They're both sort of mistake prone. They get ahead of the other driver, and then the driver in front just seems to make some kind of mistake, and the driver behind just reaps the benefits. And Sorensen now starting to fall back. I think Sorensen doesn't quite have the pace to match these two, but nevertheless, these guys, if they keep battling, who knows what's going to happen.
Ooh, is a little bit of a squirrel there for Salas coming off of turn 7. It looked like the car maybe locked up just a little bit on the latter stages of that braking zone, and that's going to cost him a couple of tenths of a second. He'll find himself 4.5 tenths here as they go down the hill. He's not going to be close enough to have a move on Laurens Van Aert. Van Aert's going to be able to breathe a little bit easy here as they come to the line, getting ready to take the 3 to go mark. There is Sorensen back in P4. I've got to agree with you. We haven't seen that gap fall down under about 0.5 of a second, and I'm not sure if Sorensen's got the pace to keep up here, but if he's got it, now is the time to start deploying it.
100%. He's not got much to play with left. He does have a pretty competitive lap time compared to Salas, but yeah, Van Aert, with that 14.5 is still the most competitive lap time we've seen so far. Not even Perez can get in 0.3 of that lap time. And maybe it was a bit of a fluky lap because he's not been able to get within those 0.3 that I was talking about of that lap time. And even when these cars are now starting to run on low fuel, the tyres are kind of worn, but they're up to their optimal temperatures. He's not been able to replicate that sort of pace and is making a fair amount of mistakes, which is allowing Salas to keep on his rear bumper. And yeah, Sorensen now is really starting to fall off.
Yeah, very much starting to fall off. The gap here over a second and a half as they dive down into the braking zone. That's going to get him out of that effective draft range, and that's really going to hurt him. And it looked like there that Salas had a little bit of a half-hearted thought about it as Perez, who we haven't shown a whole lot here, comes across the line to get 2 laps to go. But the battle is still continuing to be on here between Van Aert and Salas. Salas thinking about a little bit of a move into turn 1, a very, very high-risk move. He thinks against it, and it costs him a little bit of time there. Look, the gap up to 0.4 of a second, 0.5 of a second as they come through 2 and 3.
Yeah, I think Van Aert really is starting to push now and just wants to shake Salas off of his back bottom, which he's not really been able to do this entire race, but now is starting to just pull away a tiny stretch. And on this lap so far, he is matching Lucas Perez's lap times in the lead, and Salas on the other hand had a pretty poor sector 2, around 0.2 of a second slower. So far, not a good lap for Salas, and he really does need to pick up the pace if he wants one more shot at second place, and really needs to get the foot down.
Yeah, really needs to try to get the charge on here. The gap is coming down courtesy of that draft, but let's see how late onto the brakes he's able to dive into turn 10 and be able to keep that car up underneath him. He's going to be able to keep that about 0.6 of a second, but as we've seen before, it really needs to be about 2.5 tenths coming off of turn 7 to make any of that work. But that is of no mind here to your leader, Lucas Perez, as he rounds through turn 1 for the final time. The number 2 machine absolutely dominant here today.
Yeah, we haven't really spoken about him much, to be honest, this whole race. He let go of the clutch on lap 1, and hasn't really had to look back since. He maybe was falling under a bit of pressure on the first 3 laps-ish when Van Aert was trying to chase him down. But ever since he made that mistake, it's not really been any competition for this guy, and possibly could finish with 5 seconds to spare behind him. He's only got a few corners to pull out another 2 tenths, but speaking of gaps, Salas on this lap really has started to fall back away from Van Aert, so I think the podium should round out as you see now, but we've still got a few corners to go, so you never know what's going to happen.
You never know indeed. We've seen Van Aert make a mistake down at a turn 10 previously. Let's see if he can keep it together, but let's keep our eyes here on Lucas Perez, who comes down through 11 and 12 for the final time and runs to the checkered flag to take victory here at Road Atlanta in the Radical Racing Challenge. Van Aert going to be able to hold off a late minute rebuff there from Nacho Salas to hold on to P2. Van Aert P2, Salas in P3. Looks like Sorensen and Madeo will round out your top 5.
Yeah, pretty solid race for the top 8. I want to say not too many mistakes after about lap 10 we saw, but we did see a few mistakes from the likes of Josh Brain and of course Van Aert. But apart from that, a fairly clean race for our top 10, and apart from that opening lap, actually, I don't think we had many collisions between drivers, so always good to see, as we're just waiting for the final few drivers to cross the line now. And yeah, Blanco, apart from losing 75 iRacing, as he just goes on the grass around the final corner, just to round off a pretty terrible race, coming across the line in P12, a lap down, not what he wanted at all. And yeah, as we see the final driver coming across the line, Loris Coral, again, he actually gained 5 positions, so fair play, but again, not the best of races.
No, quite a few of those positions were taken up, obviously, by that contact that we saw in drivers working their way back down through the field. But as we said, a great run up at the front for Perez, as well as Van Aert, able to withstand that pressure when it absolutely mattered. Lasse Sorensen just didn't quite have enough. And I wonder maybe if Nacho Salas... Whoa, that's a car tumbling.
I'm not quite sure who that was, but okay. Just
I believe that was Ryan Steinwert, and I hope for Ryan's case that he was not in VR, because he could be feeling very nauseous right now.
Yeah, I just saw out of the corner of my eye this flying SR10. I'm not sure actually how he did that, but I mean, I don't know if I should be surprised, astounded. I mean, yeah, sure, yeah. I'm speechless.
One of the fun eccentricities there of iRacing is that things like that can happen. But as we wait here, Aaron, for hopefully a couple of the drivers to join us here in the interview booth, we head our way to another pretty famous circuit in the form of Hockenheim next time out. Some similar characteristics to Road Atlanta. Long straightaway to be able to get that draft on some good areas for side-by-side racing. It should be a good day.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see where the similarities start, but as somebody decides to drift it around turn 8, just thought, yeah, why not? Just gonna flick it around. But Hockenheim, in these cars, I mean, turn 1's going to be chaotic. I think we all know that's going to happen at Hockenheim, but yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how people handle Parabolica and the hairpin. As on lap 1, I think it's going to be even more chaotic than this. Is around here, there's a lot of elevation changes. One of the biggest examples is this guy right now coming around the final section. The elevation change on this track is really extraordinary, and it's kind of the opposite of Hockenheim. It's very flat. Only really the final sector is where it does actually start to change. As I think we're going to get another car go absolutely crazy. Yep. Just
that's a
that's the
there.
replay. Yeah.
Yeah, of Steinwert just having a little bit of fun there at the end of the race and flipping it on over. But yeah, the elevation change going to be a little bit of a not as much of a thing there, but we will have to wait and see. And for you folks watching at home, we will be back on the same time next Friday to bring you the Radical Racing Challenge in round number 4 from Hockenheim. But until then, on behalf of myself, DJ Clark, my co-commentator here in the booth, Aaron Smith, and our director and producer, Samuli Kuma, behind the scenes, it's been an absolute pleasure bringing you the racing action here today. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.